Welcome to Reading, students. Today's lesson is going to continue talking about theme, and we're going to add one thing, which is to find evidence in the story. Evidence is showing that something is true, okay? Something is really there. Let's move on. Today's warm-up is good theme, bad theme, my favorite game. So here are some themes. I want you to pause the video and cross off the bad ones. Okay, hopefully you have, by this point, started to figure out what my bad themes look like. They might look like a summary of the story, the important events. They might look like nonsense, or they might look like something that's a little bit too detailed, like the hare should be nicer to the tortoise. That's a good message for the hare, but again, we want to make sure that it is something for everyone. It avoids specific references to the story, okay? So these are the ones you should have crossed off. They were summaries or nonsense or too specific to the story. Okay, your learning objectives are not very different from earlier this week. I can summarize, find a theme, and show why the theme is in the story. That is to say, find evidence. And the success criteria are understanding that the theme is a message for me. It applies to everyone. I can write a summary and a theme, check my theme, and today the new one is I can show where my theme is in the story. Remember, theme is the message for me. It shows a lesson that's learned and why it's important, and it applies to everyone. When we're looking for a theme, we want to ask, what does the author believe? And usually that's located inside of a lesson that a main character learns. How does the main character change? What do they do in the story? How do they change? And then when we want to write it, we write the author believes that, and you fill in the lesson that the character learned. You fill in how they changed in a way that applies to everyone. Okay, we're not writing the hare should be nicer to the tortoise because it was bad for him when he was mean. We have to write it in a way that's for everyone. You should be nice to people because when you're unkind, it's bad for you. You should be kind to people because, okay, you need to have that reason for you, that reason for the person you're talking to. Okay, I'm going to do this one. You're going to follow along and try it, and then I'm going to give one to you to do. It's going to be the same thing we've been doing. We're going to write a summary and a theme. All I'm going to do is go back and add where I found that theme in the story. So, here's a fun story about mice, bell, and cat. The mice once called a meeting to decide on a plan to free themselves of their enemy, the cat. Enemy means someone who hates you, someone who is going to hurt you if they can. At least they wished to find some way of knowing when she was coming, so they might have time to run away. Indeed, something had to be done because they lived in such constant fear of her claws that they hardly dared come out of their holes, night or day. So already I'm picking up some things that I want in my story. The main characters are the mice, and they want to be safe. They want to be free of the enemy of the cat, right? And the problem is that she keeps sneaking up on them quietly. They don't have any way of knowing when she's coming. That's the problem. So they're looking for a solution. Many plans were talked about, but none of them was good enough. At last, a very young mouse got up and said, I have a plan that seems very simple, but I know it will be successful. All we have to do is hang a bell around the cat's neck. When we hear the bell ringing, we will know immediately their enemy is coming. So the idea is put forward that they're going to put a bell on the cat's neck so we can tell when the bell rings, the cat's coming. All the mice were much surprised that they had not thought of such a plan before. But in the middle of the rejoicing over their good fortune, an old mouse stood up and said, I will say that the plan of the young mouse is very good, but let me ask one question. Who will put the bell on the cat? No one answered, and so the mice did not put a bell on the cat. So my mind's already starting to spin here, and I'm thinking, what lesson was learned by the mice? But first, I want to finish my summary. So I'm thinking, the mice want but So they propose this idea to put a bell in the cat, and then what happens? Well, let's see if you can tell me. Remember that a summary retells the important events in a story. It's in your own words and can use the somebody wants but so then model. Take a moment, see if you can summarize this story. You can use the somebody wants but so then model or your own ideas. Just write down what the most important events in the story are. Pause the video and do that, please. Okay, your summary should look something a little like this. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. It should be in your own words. I said the mice wanted to be safe, but the cat kept them hiding in their holes. So they talked about it, and someone said they should put a bell on the cat. Then an old mouse asked who would do it, and no one said they would. This last part is not in the story. It's an inference. I inferred. The reason they're not putting that bell on the mouse is because it would be too dangerous. Now, I want you to try to find the theme. Don't worry about citing evidence yet. Just find the theme in the story. Remember that a theme shows what the author believes. It shares a lesson for the reader. So someone in this story learned something. They changed somehow. I want you to find it. How did the characters change? I'll give you a hint. The characters are the mice. Beginning of the story, they're acting a certain way, and then they change by the end of the story. What's the lesson in how they changed? You can write that here on this page once you've found it. If you haven't found it yet, back it up, go read that story and see if you can figure out what the author believes. Okay, here's my theme. I think it's easy to make a dangerous plan and hard to carry it out. The reason I think that is, I think the author believes this because in the story, a character learns. The mice learn. Well, it's easy to come up with a plan like put a bell on the cat, but when it comes down to it, they realize no one wants to do it. It's too dangerous. So I said the mice are excited about the plan to put the bell on the cat, but realize that it's too dangerous. So I think the author believes this because the mice are excited and they realize it's too dangerous. Okay, so that's my evidence in the story. Okay, we can check my theme. Did I write a message from the author? Yes, I think the message is from the author. It is a message. It's not a summary. I said it's difficult for you to carry out a good plan, right? It's easy for you to make a plan and hard for you to carry it out if it's dangerous. Does my theme relate to everyone? Yes, I'm talking to you. I'm not just talking about the mice. And does it include an important lesson for the reader that's in the story? Yes, I think those mice learning that lesson is really in the story. They really do learn. It's easy to make that plan. That mouse said it, but it's hard to carry out the plan, and no one actually wanted to do it. Okay, it is now your turn. This is going to be your exit ticket. I want you to read along with the story. You're going to summarize the story, write the theme, and then just one extra thing today. Tell me why you're giving me that theme. Where in the story does a character learn that lesson? So here we go. The Ants and the Grasshopper. One bright day in late autumn, a family of ants were bustling about in the warm sunshine, drying out the grain they had stored up during the summer when a starving grasshopper, his fiddle under his arm, came up and begged for a bite to eat. "What?" cried the ants in surprise. "Haven't you stored anything away for the winter? What in the world were you doing all summer?" "I didn't have any time to store up any food," whined the grasshopper. "I was so busy making music that before I knew it, the summer was gone." The ants shrugged their shoulders in disgust. "Making music, were you?" they cried. "Very well now. Now dance." And they turned their backs on the grasshopper and went on with their work. So as you're writing your summary and your theme, think about, did this grasshopper learn a lesson? Did he need to do something in order to feel okay, in order to get what he wanted, which was food, right? He wants food. And is he able to get that food or not? What happens to him? Okay, so it's your turn. Here's the first part of your exit ticket. Write it down somewhere. Summarize the story. Remember that a summary retells the important events. It's in your own words and can use the SWBST model. Somebody wants but so then model. Okay, here's the whole text of the story. You can pause the video and write your summary now. All right, now it's time to find the theme. Somebody learned a lesson. Who was it? What did they learn? I want you to write the author believes that and then tell me that lesson for me. Okay, it needs to be for everyone. Everyone needs to be able to follow that lesson, not just the grasshopper or the ants. Okay, so here's your theme page. You can take a screenshot of this and annotate it if you'd like. The author believes that. Your last step today. I think the author believes this because in the story, ... you fill in the blank. What happens in the story? What character learns something in the story that makes you think that's the theme? Okay, fill in the blank and then share with your teacher. Here's a place to check your work before you do that. So if you've written your theme, you can pause here and check your work before you see your teacher. Your exit ticket is to share your summary and theme with evidence from the ants and the grasshopper with your teacher. See you soon.